Okej, jesteśmy. Już? A światło coś zmieniacie? Nie. Myślałem, że zgasicie. Hello, welcome on the last session of the day, or the first session before, last session before the beer. And, we are CTO Morning Coffee Crew, so today we will have a session as a kind of a panel, I don't know, discussion about your CTO. So, can you switch the slide?
Yes, of course.
So, CTO Morning Coffee, for those who don't know us, and majority of you, is Sebastian, the guy who has always like a AI-generated background when we speak. Wojtek, head of everything in one of the big companies, and myself, Tomek. And why we are here? So we have a podcast discussions. I don't know. We are hosting Twitter Spaces where we are discussing things for people who are senior technical leadership or aspiring. We can call it. So if you want to find us, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, and yeah, so we will have this session today live.
But before we start, I know it's the last session of a day, so you might be already a bit tired. So before the beer, a little bit of exercise. So I will be asking questions, and the whole fun is you're going to raise a hand if you agree. So the first, let's try. Who heard of CTO Morning Coffee before? Okay, not bad. So that's great. And to start. So this is who we are.
Yeah.
This is where you can basically find us. So our podcast is published on those platforms that you can see at the bottom. There is the landing page where you can subscribe. And of course, we are also available on socials. So you can find pretty much everything about our new episodes there. And if you think about CTO Morning Coffee, it's basically an open community. So it's not us free. We are moderating, we are the founders, we are animating the community, but it's for everyone who is already a senior technical leader or who is aspiring to be a senior technical leader.
And wants to learn.
Yes. So this is basically why we are bringing it today to you, because maybe this is basically a developers conference, but maybe some of you are already considering this path for the future, for what's ahead. So today we are going to present you some details from the CTO's perspective, and hopefully we will have a very interesting discussion after this panel in the social part.
Before, probably need to speak closer. Yeah.
Okay, so in the meantime, while Sebastian is fixing the microphone, I can tell you, all three of us were CTOs. None of us is a CTO at the moment. And among us, I think we have enough experience to go on the retirement in Poland. So at least we've seen quite a lot of stuff in our industry.
Yeah, few rules which we follow. So everything you will hear today is our opinions, not our employers. So don't connect it with any company, whatever. We are speaking about behaviors and opinions. Again, not we don't name the companies. We try not to name people as well. So yeah, that's our opinions, not the companies we work for. And we are trying to be respectful. If you have any questions or comments, also please be respectful about what we are saying. And with that, let's kick it off.
Okay, so the plan for today. We want to talk to you about the CTO and the role of the CTO and why do you want to become one. So we want to we want you to walk out from the session considering this role in the future and what to do to be one, I hope. So we will be asking hopefully inconvenient questions, especially in the social part, and the questions to make you think. And we definitely have our own questions and our perspectives on them. And definitely, let's have a chat. Okay, with that, let's start. So, I really wanted to ask you, raise your hand if your company has a CTO. Okay. Now, raise your hand if you believe this role is not needed. Okay, that's good.
Wow.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Okay, so
I can see not all the people were honest.
the question to my fellow friends. So, from your perspective, who is the CTO and what do they do?
I have an opinion which I borrowed, and I expressed this many times. So I will just repeat it right now. Like, it's the most undefined role in the industry. So basically, nobody knows what CTO does typically, but that will mostly depend on the type of a company. Yeah. So CTO might be between like a strictly technical person, and it might be on the other side, completely not technical marketing phase of a company. And so I don't think there is a one description of what CTO does actually.
I had the perfect description in my first job contract when I was the first CTO for the very first time, and it was just a one-liner. So you're responsible for all aspects of technology in this company, and it means your balls on the table. So yeah, this was literally what was put in the contract. But yeah, with the exact wording precisely. It was not really very formal company. But if you think about the role, I agree that it depends. There are many companies and the role may vary, but I can bring in some archetypes which differ a lot. So for instance, there are some organizations where the key value is about technology. So they succeed because their technology is unique, for instance. They do something no one else has replicated or no one else has replicated as well. In this case, CTO may be a guardian of this technology. So this may be a person who is actually a custodian that this unique value proposition remains in the organization. It happens for some organizations because not every organization achieves the success because of technology, let's be honest. Some do because they have a great idea for the product. Some do because they have a great business model and so on. So that's one kind of CTO. Another CTO is basically the head of delivery. So this is the person responsible for all the audio engineers. So the person who is basically pushing them, who is like maintaining or maybe monitoring the development process or development pipeline and so on. So that's another kind of CTO. And there's a third flavor as well. And this is some sort of a salesman. So if there's a CTO of the organization who has the technical product, then you need an advocate for the external world, a credible person, a technology person who actually can tell about this product, who can advertise, who can, in a credible way, describe the product to the external world. And this also happens. So these are, I would say, three archetypes which can pretty much depict the spectrum.
We were not speaking about the companies, but before the session we were checking which companies has and don't have a CTO. Yeah?
Big tech companies.
Big tech companies. One of the surprises, Coca-Cola has one, and one of the big players in the tech doesn't. And you can Google which one doesn't have it. So that's a task or challenge for later.
For me, if you break it down, like chief technology officer. So first of all, it's I think one of the most senior people in the company, right? So that's the first thing. Second is responsible for technology, and the third is the officer. So you really are there for the company, and I think that's very different from maybe some other roles. So your role is defined by what is good for the company, and that's the ultimate responsibility. So no matter whether it's a 100,000 people company or 20 people company, you are there for the company. That often means you will need to make uncomfortable decisions. So that's a very interesting part of the job.
Okay, but if you are there, like responsible for technology for a company, and then there are different roles. Yeah, so you have a CIO, CDO, VP of engineering, a lot of different. So what's the difference?
That's a good question, because that varies from the company to the company. Not every company will have CEOs and CDOs, right? So that's also very interesting.
There are many different models. I think it's a good topic to be parked, so we can discuss about it in the social part after the session.
Okay, so let's go to the second question. I think the one that you will be very interested in. So raise your hand if you believe that CTO should be coding. So should be individual contributor, capable of reading, understanding, and contributing to company's code. That's very interesting, what I see here, I have to say. Okay, so gentlemen, from your experience, how much technology is really in the CTO role?
Again, the answer is unfortunately depends. So it depends on the phase where the organization is. And I think that it's not a good question. The good question is how the CTO can make the biggest leverage. So for instance, when the organization is very small and you actually need to ship something because you haven't shipped anything yet, then probably coding may not be the stupidest idea ever. Or if you need to like create the product that is actually unique, so focusing on just the product may not be the stupid way to do. But in some time, many people become CTOs just because they want to outskill themselves. It's if you just write code, you know, the day has 24 hours and you cannot extend that. So you outscale yourself, but bringing more people in in a reasonable way and guiding them and coaching them, mentoring them and helping them to act together as one mechanism, right? So it's probably much more sense in focusing on that than coding.
Yeah, you can see that Sebastian and myself, we are consultants because we speak, it depends many times. So the thing is that you need to be able to say bullshit if somebody is telling bullshit to you. So you cannot do it if you are not. So even if you are not coding in the leadership, you work with the people. So basically, you need to be able to at least understand the code to some level. And as I said, if somebody is saying it will take a month, and then you need to know if it takes a month or not. So you have to be technical. I was actually kind of surprised with the result of this hand poll because I expected that you will be expecting that CTO is technical. Yeah. So it will be very good conversation afterwards why you think they are not technical based on your experience, people you've met or whatever. Yeah, there is technology, but applied differently. And probably the biggest difference when company is growing, yeah, because at the beginning, it's typically the best coder, whatever becomes a CTO, then company grows and the focus shift. Yeah, so it's then the question is, like the responsibility of the CTO is more like how technology can give lever.
I think, so two thoughts. First one is, you mentioned a trap that CTOs often fall into. So I guess you don't want to be the best coder in the company, and you don't want to prove
Might want to.
You don't want to prove your engineers that you're the best coder in the company, right? So that's one thought. Second thought, this job is actually what I really loved about it is your vision is on a bit different horizon. So my role as a CTO was to foresee what's the future. So 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and really start to work on these projects and really understand, okay, so where do I need to get my team to make sure that we deliver on the strategy? So usually companies will have a team around the CTO executing on strategic projects or R&D projects. So that's that can be called CTO office, that can be called like a core platform, whatever we call it. And these teams will be responsible for setting up standards for the company. If CTO cannot really work together with that team, I think we would have a problem. And I think as engineers, we all would really enjoy working with leaders who understand the technology, right? So
I think the bottom line here is that if you will be considering this path, just coding will not get you there. I mean, or being the best on technology will not get you there.
And with that, so how to work with people as a CTO? And
So you have to work with people.
do you have to work with people?
So you cannot, you can't avoid working with people, and the more and more you will. So that's something you need to understand when you will be considering kind of a focus on a leadership. Yeah, you might think like, okay, the tech lead, whatever, but going into leadership path like VP of engineering, CTO, whatever, means that you spend more time working with people than actually sometimes with tech. Yeah, because even if you want to execute on a technology idea, so then you need to sell it to others. Yeah, you need to know how to communicate, and actually the communication skill and handling people emotions and handling the table sometimes is more important than what you think about technology. Agree, disagree?
And don't get me wrong, working with people doesn't just mean like pure management, like doing all the evaluations and remuneration cycles and stuff like that. It's also about leadership. So the first thing I really learned, which really shocked me when I became a leader for the very first time, was that it doesn't work like that, that you just tell people to do things and then they just do and everything is superb and, you know, unicorns poo with the rainbow and so on. So you actually need to sell the ideas to them. So those ideas become theirs and they co-own those ideas. They believe in them. They commit to those ideas and we cooperate on something together. But to do that, you need to sell this idea. I actually learned it the hard way. Maybe I will skip the details, but if
That's for the social part, right?
yeah, the technology may not be as relevant as you initially thought, but actually the people factor is far more relevant, and you cannot skip that. Even if in the organization you're not a formal boss of anyone, because it happens. For instance, we've mentioned some big tech. In Amazon, actually, CTO only has a very small CTO office, so Werner actually is not my boss. So that's how the organization works. So, but still, his impact on the organization is huge. And without like an ability to work with people, he wouldn't be able to do that.
I think when working with people, you need to, as a CTO, you need to learn that as a leader, senior leader, you will need to make uncomfortable decisions sometimes. So if you will become a CTO, especially of a startup, hard times. You may have a boss of Elon Musk, for instance, right? And the boss may come to you and say, you need to reduce headcount by 20%. And you need to understand in these roles, you will be ultimately responsible to prepare the headcount. So that's sometimes tough pill and something you need to remember. But let's move on. So you mentioned one surprise. So if you can mention like the biggest surprise in the role that you had.
That all the other people in the leadership team will think that technology is simple. So that was one. So my history is I was working, I had my own company with the 4 other guys, because we all knew technology, and then we basically they started to do different things, like we all started. And everybody thought that this new stuff like marketing, sales, HR, that's hard. Technology is simple, and you want to do something, and they are saying, no, that will take a week because that's simple. It's technology. So that was one of the challenges in the role.
Sebastian.
I will mention 3, but very, very briefly. So the first surprise.
That's cheating.
Yeah, it's completely cheating. So the first one was that I've learned that when you are CTO, you're actually in 2 teams. So it's intuitive that the whole engineering crew is your team. So that's probably obvious. But the C-level executive team is another team. And this is equally important. So if you underestimate it, if you don't understand that those C-level people are a team as well, you may actually skip a big part of this job, a crucial part. The second surprise is that actually when you are a CTO and when you have 100 people, managing those 100 people can be actually easier than managing one CEO. That was surprising to learn. That was something I didn't expect. And maybe the final one is that as a CTO, you frequently have an expiration date, which means that you have some capital that you are spending over the time that you are in the organization. And I can elaborate on it later, so feel free to ask this question directly when we meet at the session after that.
For me, it was the surprise is sometimes amount of strategy you need to put into, so building on top of what you said, and collaboration with the senior leadership to sell this strategy. So basically speaking, a lot of this role is selling. You need to sell to CFO, why do we need to hire another 30 engineers? That's a tough budget, by the way, to force for you, the CFO. Why the engineering team needs to do X? Why do we need another product? Why do we, etc., etc. You need to convince a lot of people. So communication skills are very useful.
But connected to that and to the previous one with protein, yeah. So one of the surprises is how many people will come to you with the same brilliant idea, and then they don't listen that you're saying it's not brilliant. If you have a merit to this, yeah. So I got like every 2 months somebody coming up with the same idea, and then I was saying, look, not a good idea. We are not going to do it. It's stupid. Maybe not stupid, not too strong word, but there is no market for us. I communicated this to some people, and somebody else is coming up with the same idea. Look, I figured it out. We will solve everything doing this. No, we are not doing this again and again and again.
Okay, now question to you. Have you ever considered pursuing a senior engineering leadership role? So,
If you did, raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you have.
Why?
That's the question for the after party, right? Oh, very quickly, because we have another interesting topic. So is this for everyone?
So I will answer this a bit. No, it's not for everyone. Why? So it's really like I was doing a different session with somebody else, and we got things which it will give you or not. So first of all, it will not give you a fame. Yeah, it will not be a money, like a highest salary in a company, whatever. So it's really like how to prepare. You need to figure out why you want to do it, and probably the only reason you might want to pursue the leadership, like technical leadership role, is you might have a leverage in a company. So if you want to have a leverage on what company is doing and have an impact on it, so that's the path probably for it. Yeah, how to prepare. Start to learn how to work with people. And that's also something I repeat very often. There are 3 like core skills: writing, listening, and speaking. Yeah. So those are the 3 core skills you need to start to learn and master if you want to pursue this path, because a lot of this work will be convincing other people to do something without authority. Yeah.
You can chat with ChatGPT about the code. You
Yeah.
listen to it now, and you can speak to it, right?
Yeah, something like this. So,
Kidding.
But if you want to prepare or if you want to consider it, so I think that the biggest thing is start to develop the other skills than technical.
Sebastian, how to prepare?
Well, first of all, if you're going to pick the leadership path, you need to know why you do that. So what is your motivation? In my case, as I've mentioned, I wanted to outscale myself. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do better. I was full of ambitious at the time. I really wanted to do something bigger, stronger, faster. Not because I wanted, I don't know, someone to appreciate that. It was just for myself. So if you have a good motivation, it's easier. Is it for everyone? No, it's not. And you will not know until you try. And how to try that? Probably at a smaller scale. So try a smaller project, try a smaller company, try some goal. And is it possible to learn this even if you don't have any, let's say, talent for such a thing? It's hard to say, and the opinions vary. In my case, I would say that you need to learn the hard way. And you will learn some inconvenient truths about yourself, about your borderlines. So what is comfortable and what is not comfortable. And can you make it or not really?
I will say maybe something really funny, but I have a massive imposter syndrome. So for me, the way to become the CTO was to hack my own operating system. We wanted to work with much smarter people than I am, so I could hire them, right? So as a CTO, I could really hire really smart engineers, learn from them, and that's actually the main theme of my career. I really wanted always to be the dumbest person in the room.
But for whoever will be considering even like going or aspiration for the kind of the technical leadership role, so the one thing you need to know is that this will take you to the path or to the place that you will be calling the shots. Yeah, so you will not be able to go to somebody else and tell them like what I should do, because they will look at you and say it's your job. Yeah, so in the end, whatever decision will have to be made, it will be okay. Just figure it out. Yeah, so that's ultimately something you need to be prepared for. Yeah, that you will be.
With that, what CTOs are looking for in engineers?
Getting shit done.
Okay.
No, but so who thinks we are like when CTO is picking engineers, they are picking the best skill? I mean, technical skill. Hands up. That wasn't prepared. So you don't think that we are looking like if we are CTOs that we're the engineers? Who thinks that CTOs are looking for pure technical skill when they are picking people like engineering team? So mostly we are looking at like or at least myself, guys will tell for themselves, but that's observation. We are looking for people who will deliver. Yeah, so technical skill is one, you need to have it, but then we are looking at people who will deliver the outcome. Yeah, so when you are picking the sidekick, whatever, so who will help me do this leverage in a company? Who will help me to push organization further? Yeah, so that's the biggest trait probably when picking the engineers to the team.
Maybe your opinions differ, but 95% of the coding work, development work we do is not really a rocket science. It's actually quite repetitive. It requires skills that can be replaced with LLMs, for instance. So these skills are not the most useful ones. I mean, they can be learned, but Tomasz has said, getting shit done. I have a different name, ability to execute. So how do you own the stuff that you should be doing? So do you look for excuses, or can we rely on you? So how persistent are you when something does not go right? How persistent are you in looking for options? Are you just, can you even escalate? Some people cannot escalate. Some people are just stuck with the problem and no one knows until someone asks the question. So they need constant monitoring and so on. So leadership on the level of individual contributors or on the level of a single person is ownership. And ownership means taking accountability for the work that you want to do or you are assigned to do or you picked or whatever. So I think that this trait is absolutely crucial. And you can like contrast it with things like victimship, looking for excuses, or just opportunistic work, which is just about pushing tasks without even understanding what you do.
I would add one last thing to what you said. Not maybe last word, but one thing. We mentioned multiple times Barizer, and I think that very important when I make a decision to hire is whether the person is better than most of the engineers in the current team. If yes, then that's great. And what does it mean it's better? Well, it depends on the context, right? But that's something that I will be looking for.
On the subject of getting shit done or accountability, there is a very good book we recommend it very often, Staff Engineer. And there is one piece in this book. I don't know if you read it or not. If not, recommend it. And the guy says that if you want to make an impact and build a career, you need to be ready to pick the task and basically say, I will do it. So basically, there will be a situation that there will be tough task. Nobody will want to do it. And if you want to be like have a shot on leadership position, you will be the person who will say, yes, I will do it. And you will take it and deliver. Yeah. So so that's in the end is like a differentiator for people who are performing for the like above the average.
So we're looking for the skin in the game.
Yeah, skin in the game as well.
With that, so a couple of controversial topics maybe. Who believes? Raise your hand if you believe estimations don't bring any value. So hashtag no estimates and stuff. Okay, good stuff.
Everybody are estimating.
So, why do we even ask for the estimates from the CTO perspective?
Challenge them.
Who?
Estimates. No, it's so in the end. So I think that this comes down to the expectation in a company, yeah, and that will depend on the type of company. So Wojtek is working more in the product. I was working more on the professional services. And then the expectations are different, but for Wojtek, it's when we will ship the feature. Yeah, for me, it was like, can we deliver this project? Yeah, how we can do it without the input. And the estimation is an input to the process of assessing the risk. And some people are saying they don't want to do it. Yeah, I don't know why. But in the end, you need to have put some kind of a measure on when we will ship something or deliver project or whatever. Yeah, and the part of the role of a CTO is basically to be critical on those estimates.
My thinking about that has evolved. So initially it started that, no, we don't need estimates because we will compromise the quality. So estimates are bad. Then my way of thinking has changed, that estimates are good, but they are good if you are self-declaring an estimate. So because then you are imposing your ownership. So I've estimated, yeah, you could basically, yes, it's your own commitment. So I told that it's 10 and I will stick to my word. So that's when estimate is good. And then again, my thinking has changed. And this is the most controversial part, because right now I think that actually the imposed estimates. So sometimes when your boss tells you that it should be 10 days, actually is not such a stupid thing. Why so? Because it challenges your thinking. It's actually because some level of stress, some level of pushing actually helps us develop. Otherwise, there's a great saying, I think it's by Andy Jassy. It's a great saying that, estimations are good. No estimations. Intentions are good, but good intentions do not work. You need actually mechanisms to help those good intentions to manifest. So in the end, my final statement is, yes, estimates are very good as a way to contain or to maintain the necessary level of positive pressure.
So I would actually elaborate on what Sebastian said. I wish you a leader who will always cut your estimates in not half, but 2/3 of it. It really makes you to think and to question. And we're engineers, right? So what you will do, you will think, oh, I don't need that, and I don't need that, and here I can do a shortcut. And you know what? You will deliver in maybe not 1/3, but probably in a half time that you originally estimated. So that's something
there's
interesting.
Good examples of cutting those estimates in the last book of Musk. You can read it.
Much of it.
But basically he's cutting the estimates on everything, and then in the end he's right. But a bit of a maybe like a look from the CTO kitchen. Yeah, how I use estimates. By the way, there are guys here who worked with me, so they believe it or not. But so for me, estimates is also a way to say if people know what they are doing. Yeah, because if I'm getting the estimates from the team on a project and it is big, or I know it's unrealistic, so I know that the team doesn't know what they are doing. Yeah, and my is to a bit of challenge them, like estimate, like I need to find out why it is. Yeah, like what is the uncertainty in it? Like what is the risk for a company with it? Yeah. So if somebody is bringing the estimates after 20 years in the industry, I pretty much can say like, is it 100% off, 50% off? Yeah. And then my role is basically, or what I'm doing in this moment is basically asking the question, okay, so explain to me why this takes month. Yeah.
This is tactical, but there is also strategic perspective. So, as I mentioned, your role as CTO will be responsible for company success from an engineering technological perspective, meaning thinking 3-5 years terms. And you will have a roadmap in your head. So you know that the project that we're working on this quarter in the next half year is just one project on the whole roadmap of projects to get you there. So you really want to make sure that it will be delivered. Okay, the next question. Now, seniority. So raise your hand, and I mean it, if you believe you're senior plus experience. So senior, lead, staff, engineer, etc., etc. Don't be shy. So I'm going to ask my co-host a question. So what is a senior plus seniority for you, and how would you assess somebody to be a senior plus engineer?
I have one simple way to assess it, is the leverage on the rest of the organization. So if someone is just contributing as individual, just himself, and for instance, doesn't collaborate with anyone, doesn't have an impact on everyone, doesn't act as a multiplier for the team, the organization, whatever, then the seniority is small. I mean, because the value doesn't scale. So this person may be a great coder. That's perfect. That's awesome. But still, the leverage is low. So for me, like seniority equals to leverage. So people who have leverage over their team, maybe some department, maybe some product, and so on. So their work is greatest than a typical contribution, the sum of their commits. So in this case, that's the seniority. So that's why people who are even great, they are great brains that are super smart and so on, but they have no good impact on others, in my opinion, or in my, let's say, classification, they are not senior.
So that's a tough one, because partially your job or job of a CTO is to define it in a company. And then we have a job market. We'll have a session part of a job market as well. But a lot of job market thinks that years in the industry is seniority, and it's so it doesn't mean if you are 10 years on the market or 5. Yeah, so the time is not seniority. Yeah, and then probably you can assess a seniority of a person by technical skills and on a time to some level, like what we call senior, maybe, yeah, like junior, senior, whatever. And then the trouble starts, because after some seniority level, there are different expectations to the people, because you might be like a senior plus in technology or in leading the team or some other area like developing the product in a company. Yeah. So in the end, it comes down to impact. Yeah. The trouble is how to define this impact. Yeah. Because you have a company. So I was part of a company with a 400 plus people, and then you might be senior in, and that's the question. Yeah. Like you might be a senior in leading the team. Yeah. But you will stop developing like technically. So it's really good to think like when you will be aspiring to like raise your seniority in a company, like to even to get a promotion. Yeah. So you really need to start to think like in what area you're developing this seniority level. Yeah. So do you want to be the better coder? Do you want to lead the projects? Yeah. But in the end, seniority is defined in the leverage, in the terms like, okay, can you take a team and deliver the feature or a project on your own? Yeah. Can you take a task in a company and basically deliver this task for a company, for a development of a company, like build a new product, build a new feature, build part of the organization. Yeah. So it's less about technical skills, it's more about raising the responsibility, what you are having, and raising the impact, like bigger impact on the entire organization. Very round words.
I would just say, from my perspective, two things: ownership and mentorship. So ownership: do you own what you work on? And second is, do you make people around you better? So the better, and that boils to the impact from my perspective. But the more the actually the more senior you are actually. Okay, another controversial topic. So what are the thoughts? So we are very often responsible for the biggest budget in the company, meaning the people working in engineering. That is often the biggest budget, and also the second largest budget, which is cloud costs. So so basically speaking, what is CTO's perspective on salaries?
They are too high, always. No, but seriously, so it will depend on the market. Each market is different. Yeah, Poland is right now, if we are speaking about Polish market, is in a very specific moment, because you might like it or not, Polish market is overvalued in terms of what we pay versus what we get. That's why companies are shifting away from the market. Yeah. So salaries is, well, so really it will depend what you're trying to achieve and how you're doing it. Yeah. But in the end, it's a question about what you are bringing to the table for a salary you want to get. Yeah. So if you're going for a raise, it's a question, okay, so what I will do for a company, what I'm bringing to the organization to get the raise. But after a years, and there is I think it's George Lee, he wrote this, no, somebody wrote the post with from the Dutch market perspective. Because that's really interesting to look at the dynamics of the salaries on the given market over time. Yeah, and this is good to understand this dynamic, like on what market you're working. Is it the developing market where basically you are still like cheaper compared to the other markets? Are you in developed market? Poland is right now in this point, I think. Yeah, like our salaries are not competitive versus other countries. We are not cheaper market. We used to be. Right now we are at the same level like other European countries. And then the question is, okay, so I want to still raise my income. So what I will do to raise this income? Like, is it a unique skill? Is it the technology? Is it the different? What is my unique value for a salary I'm getting?
Question to Sebastian: how to get a raise from you?
I want to have a good discussion in the after party, so I want to put some thought-provoking comments that will trigger you and they will basically enrage you, so you will come to me. And
Repeat my question. How to get a raise from you?
Yeah, so okay, I will start with an anecdote. When I came to get a raise for the very first time, they asked me, all right, can you show me, can you prove me, or can you show to me how much more value, how much more money did you generate for the company with your own work? So basically, can you show me how much more money organization has earned because of you?
Or saved.
Yeah. So I think it's a good mental exercise. You can do this as well in your company. And if your answer is, I don't know, I cannot do this, I don't have to do that. Or if you see that, frankly, I didn't contribute a lot of new revenue, then you should just think about,
or I don't care.
What does it say about the market, job market? Does it mean that the situation is sustainable? Because the last few years were like completely bonkers, right? So I hope everyone realizes that. But if you honestly answer yourself this question, then probably it's really thought-provoking, especially in context of the future. So that's the first comment I wanted to make. The second comment is that typically when I join the organization as a CTO, for instance, I create some sort of salary formula. And it's a good mental exercise to split the salary into buckets. So for instance, I evaluate a single engineer, engineer X, and I ask myself how much I would like to pay this person. And I assess that person, that his objective or her objective knowledge is worth X. But this person is this organization for 4 years. So this person knows this organization really well. So I also value this knowledge specific to this organization as Y. And this guy is also taking additional duties no one else does, and maybe I value this as Z, and so on. And it's a good mental exercise, not only for me as a person who is paying those salaries, but also for you, because in this way, you can also actually evaluate what makes more sense for you. Stay here or maybe move somewhere else. Why so? Because in the last 10 years, actually you haven't learned much. The only thing you learned, which are relevant from the market perspective, is specifics for this particular organization. So maybe you are in a golden cage. It's good to name things. Yeah, so that's my second comment that I hope will be thought-provoking. And the third comment, very, very briefly, is that I really admire the salary models where you are not just paid with cash, but also with RSU, so restricted stock units, with ESOP. So where you actually, the company succeeds, you succeed with that as well. This is a great model. This is the model which enforces skin in the game. This is a model when you are not just the code writer, you're actually building product. You are actually contributing to the real, meaningful financial success of this organization. I'm really a fan.
That's something I really wanted to.
Okay, I will have a follow-up question to Sebastian and maybe Wojtek. So why we don't have it in Poland?
That's something I wanted to say, because I only once worked in a Polish company, and it was quite surprising for me. In Poland, we work for the salary, and we work on the retirement through putting aside some money from the salary. Everywhere else, you work, you live from your salary, but your retirement is from the stock and equity you collect. And we're talking about much higher value than the percentage of the salary that you will put aside. So to be honest, that's very Polish specific. And at the moment I work with many countries, and it's quite shocking for me that it's very Polish specific. We believe that your retirement is what you will get now and put aside, like in a jar, put it in the garden, plant a tree over it maybe, and maybe one day come back, right? So that's interesting model.
There are a few reasons, I think. The first one is that the situation was so bonkers when it comes to the salary ranges that because equity is risk, because this company may not succeed. So why take this risk if I can easily earn 30K, 35K without this risk? So right, that was one of the reasons why people just didn't bother with stock, because they could get a lot of money without that. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is because in general, the majority of the organization in Poland, I think, are service organizations. So they don't build their own products. They actually work as service providers for external companies from the outside. So I think that we are still quite early when it comes to this strong entrepreneurship wave of new product companies that we expect to happen here in Poland.
Yeah, I will grab Mike with one maybe last remark. So you might be I don't know if you're surprised or not, because Wojtek said that he has to. I don't know if he has to, but in this job you need to evaluate the budget. Yeah. So if you want to know what every CTO is doing right now, believe it or not, Sebastian said that the salaries went bonkers in Poland. They did. We got a 30% salary increase
3 years.
In a year, actually. In 2021, the salaries on the Polish market went 30% up. So especially if you're working in a company which is building the product, whatever, so believe me, right now, your CEO, CTO is thinking, should they move engineering jobs out of Poland or not? Yeah. So it's really good to think what is the value you're bringing, because they will be looking how to cut costs. And this is the question they are getting. Yeah. And I'm not saying this to scare you off or whatever, but this is the real question everybody are asking right now. Can we sustain engineering in Poland? So that's a bit of the insight from the market.
I will jump to the next question, but it was thought-provoking. So remote work. So maybe I'll ask you a question and we can come back to that over a beer. Who believes that you raise a hand if you believe you're less productive while working from home? Okay, that will be an interesting discussion. Technical debt, I think we'll skip it because looking at the time. I have one more question. Raise your hand if you are afraid that AI will replace you. That's very interesting if you're the only person that thinks that. Especially, have you watched OpenAI keynote 2 days ago? Have you watched GitHub Copilot keynote yesterday? If not, I do recommend you watching it. Now, a question to my fellow CTO Morning Coffee hosts. So what do you think generative AI will change in the next couple of years in engineering? Weeks. Looking at the speed, maybe.
So the interesting point, interesting one. I think 3 years ago I recorded a YouTube interview with somebody, and they asked me, do I think that AI will replace code developers? And I said no in the next 10 to 20 years. Yeah, and that was 3 years ago.
What do you think? What would you answer now?
Right now, it will not replace, but the value of software development will devaluate very quickly. So the value of writing the code will devaluate, and the job will, like, you will have to either, like, the people on the software development specifically, they will have to learn how to use those tools. They will have to think like what value they bring above the code. We even had a chat today here. Yeah, like, think about this. If LLM can write a code, not perfect one, not efficient one, but working code, and it can do it literally for free in the relative terms. Yeah. What is the value of writing better code and more performant and more beautiful? This one is working. Yeah. And a lot of people will start to think this way, like, and that will cause the job as a value of the pure coding developing devaluating very quickly. We will see it over next probably months, years. There is really good example also from OpenAI. I think it wasn't on the keynote, it was later. Yeah, we saw it, like when somebody is taking OpenAI interface, the invoice, I think Sebastian showed it. And basically they define the fields they want to extract and they are getting it. Yeah, so basically they put the document and they are getting API returning the values without any development work. Yeah. So my advice is, if you are not using it, go to the ChatGPT, literally see those GPTs they are doing right now, try it and think what does it mean to your work. And personal example, I tried one, there is a data analytics GPT. Yeah, I took some data from the spreadsheet, I dropped it there, I asked the question, can you do this, 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 and this? And I got it after 3 minutes. Earlier, I wrote the code in Python to do the same. It took me a couple of hours. And literally, the single GPT replaced a couple of hours of my job writing a code, and I didn't do anything with it. Yeah, so the value of software development, like a pure coding, will devaluate very quickly. That's, I think, is the impact.
So just a few things. I've heard somewhere that the natural language or English will become the next programming language. And initially I thought it's funny and it's bullshit, but I was wrong. Yeah, so that's one thing that will change for sure, or it has already changed. The second thing is that the developers of now will turn into the product developers of tomorrow. So we'll need more product developers because we'll have more applications, because it will be so cheap and so easy to generate application. So right now, we do not solve problems with creating applications in many, many spheres. I mean, if we work for a bank, probably this bank creates some applications, right? But there are so many other things that could be automated with applications, but they are not because it's too expensive now. Bank doesn't have enough developers. So this will change. So those people who are right now writing code, they will probably be more like a product developers who will, in some abstract way, define those applications and use LLMs to create those apps. So that's how I think it will work. And there will be plenty of things that will change about the actual process of creating applications. So for instance, it doesn't make sense, it will not make sense to actually write and maintain code. This is typically the biggest nightmare of writing code, that you have to maintain it. But why? If you have an LLM, you can just recreate it. The code can be immutable. You can just recreate it with the new improved prompt or something like that. So, so this will be interesting. This will completely change the workflow of which we use to create applications. So, and this is already happening. So, if you are thinking about your role and the safety, of course, I don't want to be a scaremonger or something like that, but I am 99% sure that like big tech and some other smart asses in the industry are already thinking about and evaluating. So, in 3 years' time, how many developers will we need, keeping in mind how this whole thing develops, how quickly it expands. So interesting times ahead. That's great.
I just wanted to maybe emphasize what two things that you said. The biggest problem of the industry that we had, and everyone in this room was affected as well, is that we had so-called talent gap. So there was a huge gap between the talent available on the market and our needs.
30% raise in salaries.
And raising. And then, of course, the raising costs of salaries. So big techs solved the biggest problem, I guess. Now, I want to emphasize the second thing that what you exactly said. If you want to be a leader of tomorrow, become an AI engineer today. So think about the problem that your team has, or you have in your own company, or maybe some other problem, and just deliver on it. Think how you can automate, how you can speed up. And believe me, if you will come to your leaders, to your CTO, and say, I increased by 30% X, by 50% Y, by 2 months Z, you will be given with more and more opportunities, and then you will create more and more interesting solutions, and you will start to learn how to use these tools, how to actually identify the potential value, deliver on it, and then build, of course, the team that does it, etc., etc. So if I was I think if I were an engineer, regular engineer now, this is what I would be doing. Thinking around the clock, what I can automate. It's amazing time, to be honest. I was, when I started, maybe how old I am. My first SDK, I got on floppy disks and I had to read it. There was no internet. So you literally read the documentation from A to Z. So now it's very different because I can speak to computer and computer can do stuff for me.
So by the way, who is using like LLM, GPT, whatever?
For pilots.
But in the work, not for fun. That's a lot. So I think that just closing maybe remark, I like to have a last word, and there is a bit there. But it's really, if you haven't seen, like, you should take a look at this keynote, even from the OpenAI, and compare it to the keynote they had like 6 months ago. Because the one thing which is happening right now is that, I don't know for what reason, but this thing is happening much faster than the previous iterations on technology. Yeah, typically it is a couple of years from the idea to like first product. And those guys are shipping products like crazy. It was
a year ago we got Chat.
Yeah. Year ago we got ChatGPT. Right now you can have a LLM running on this Mac doing work for you. Yeah. And Wojciech was playing with it last weekend, a bit of a background, and he got like a private LLM working on a laptop. So LLMs are right now ubiquitous. Like nobody will, like the LLM, the model will not be a value. Yeah, the value will be what it's delivering. And if you don't know, there is a guy called Karpati, Andrei Karpati. I don't know if you know him. Look at his stuff, and he has a very good software 2.0 when he's
software engineer.
Yeah. So he's I don't know what role he has at OpenAI right now. But he used to be CTO of Tesla, and he explains like a new paradigm for a creation of a software where you basically don't write the code, but you write an agent, talking to agents, talking to an agent, and you are layering the AIs doing the work. Yeah, and if you look at the last OpenAI keynote, yeah, and maybe some videos later, like, this is what they are delivering right now. Yeah, you can, for example, there is example like you can take the whole documentation of an API, you can drop it there, and you can ask about, okay, so how do I write the code against this API? Yeah, but what is more interesting is that, and I'm finishing, I know it's too long, but right now you can write a prompt to GPT, and if chat doesn't have an answer to it, it can generate the code on the fly, compile it, execute it, and provide you the answer.
Browse the internet.
Yeah. So it's literally you're asking about something. There is no answer for it, but there is a code which can be used for it. So the chat itself, getting this code, compiling it, executing, getting the answer, and providing the answer. And there is nobody in the process, protein person. Okay, I'm done.
With that, I think we can invite for a beer, right?
Yeah, so that was our session, like a live. I hope you enjoyed at least a bit. But we are staying here, so if you have any thoughts, questions, you want to challenge what we were saying, so just please find us. We are staying for our after party, and tomorrow, Sebastian has a talk tomorrow. So also, I encourage everybody to go there.
Yeah, and well, besides, we invite you that if you are interested in general in the leadership, senior technical leadership, so maybe right now, maybe this is something you aspire to, look for us online, participate in the meetings. This is open community, this is free community, you can participate, you can listen to. Each episode is dedicated to a particular topic. There's a huge archive already on the internet. I think we have 50 episodes, plus some video episodes as well. So hopefully you will find this content useful.
Or CTO, MC, GPT, because maybe we will work on that.
Maybe one day.
And then we can go for a coffee.
So
So
thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. See you downstairs.